Hello and welcome to SPSS Class 2 from Section 3.2 or S33. So we go back to the WDI and get some more data, this time cross-sectional data. So the same variables for many more countries, or all the countries that we have data on. So the quickest way to do this when you go back here is in the countries section. If you click that now, then you get some unfortunate results because you can try it if you like, but as well as selecting individual countries, it selects things like sub-Saharan Africa or middle-income countries, and you get all those groupings together with individual countries, and you get a mess. So click countries, and then click the select all. Then that selects 217 different countries, which is enough for us. Then the series need the same series as before, so I'm just going to pause it a second and find those variables. One difference here is on the poverty, I'm going to go for the $1.90 and the next one up $3.20 and the next one up $5.50. Because for more developed countries, there's so few. The numbers for $2 a day now is so tiny that you have to look at the higher ones because you literally could not survive in those countries on $2 a day. And the last ones are the health ones. Okay. So I've selected those 6 variables, and the final thing is to select time. Even though for cross-section data we should just look at 1 year, in reality, I'm going to select a few years, the last 5, not counting this year at the time I make this video, but the previous 5 years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we don't need 2014. Okay, so we've got that. We apply changes. It takes a while to do it. Now this time, because we need to do a bit of work on the data before bringing it to SPSS, this is a very awkward format to have. So we need to go to layouts and adjust the format a bit so that the series at the top, and that's set as a column percentage, and then time is in the columns, and then countries on the rows, like that. So we're going to have just one row for each country, and then the columns are going to be, first of all, a big heading saying that each series, and then below that in the years, and then another series for the years, and then another series for the years there. So it'll be quite a wide format. If I change, you can maybe see what I mean. It catches up. So you can come across like this. It's quite difficult. So there's life expectancy at birth. So that's the top series, and then underneath that you've got in time the years, and so on. And hopefully you'll see why we need that in a moment when we start getting it into Excel and changing it a bit. So let's open Excel and then save it so we can edit it. Slow. Come on. I'm just going to pause it. So, as before, we've got this data that looks a bit messy. There's lots and lots of missing data. I'm going to deal with that as before by using this search or find and replace. So I'm going to search for the double dots. This time, because I'm going to do some work in Excel, I need to have blanks there, so I won't put anything here. So Excel knows there's missing data, there's nothing there. Replace that. So it's made 3023 replacements, so obviously that would be quite time consuming. If you do it by hand, best not to. Okay, so that's parts 36. Now we get to the reason why we downloaded data for several years. It's because there's not much data on poverty, so what I want to do is to combine several years together. So here, for example, there's nothing in this latest year, so I'll just take that value. Here I'll take the average of these. So I'm going to take the average of the values in the last 5 years to try and cover as many gaps as possible. If you go back too far, then it's no longer representative, but poverty doesn't change that quickly, so average of the last 5 years gives you a reasonable idea. But GDP per capita, there's plenty of data for the last year. I suppose I could take that to fill in that gap, but it's not really worth it. So what I'll do is I'll just delete this because I don't want the country code and all those GDP per capitas. Just delete all that. So I'll just keep GDP per capita in 2019. And then here, what I'm going to do is, it's a bit awkward because you can't see what exactly you're looking at, but it's the $1.90 per day these are here. So it's come out in a slightly different order to when I wrote the instructions. So that's the $3.20. So here, in front of that one, I'm going to insert a column, and I call this POV 190 because I don't want to have dots in it. Oops. So that's poverty 190 cents or $1.90, and that's going to be equal to the average of these 5 years. There's still no data for Afghanistan. There's not much you can do. There have been other things to do in Afghanistan other than collect data, unfortunately. This does mean that because it's there's no data there, it's trying to divide by 0 because there are no, so there's no defined average. So you get this error. We'll get rid of those data. For now, I'll just copy this formula down here. So it does work where there are some values to work with. So anywhere where there's at least one value, you'll get something for the average. And so it's taking this value from a few years ago, 2 years ago for Zimbabwe, this value from years ago for Zambia, average of these and so on. So there's quite a lot we have got data on, but not all of it by any means. Final thing to do here is to select all that column of stuff, because at the moment the numbers in that column are formulas, so all those numbers depend on these numbers in the other columns here. So when I delete these other columns, I want to get rid of them. That means that all these numbers would be made as errors as well. So I can't do that. So what I have to do is to copy this, paste it back in exactly the same place using this, and that just turns it into the fixed values, like that. And then I can go ahead and just delete all these previous things. And it won't affect what I've got in this column. Now I'm doing exactly the same thing for the next two columns. So this is 320, 320, 320, 320, 320. That's 5, so I'll put one in there. Insert that. That's going to be average. Average of the previous 5 years. Go down there. And copy it, so paste it in, and then get rid of the previous ones. Oops, the previous column. And the last one is here. I've forgotten to actually just give it a name, but I'll do that in a moment. That's based on this, so with the values, I can delete all those. So this should have been POV 320, this should have been POV 450. Great, so I've got the three poverty ratios, good. Life expectancy is a bit complicated because there's data there except for there's no data for last year. So what I'm going to do is I'll get rid of last year's one because there's no data in that. And I'll get rid of those earlier 3 years. So I'm just going to use the data for 2018. Mortality, there's enough data for each year apart from, well, there's enough data for each year, so I'll just get rid of the earlier ones. Now that's much better. So what we need now is just to replace the top row with variable names that SPSS will like. So GDP per capita on poverty. life expectancy, and mortality. Yeah, and of course there's no country names because these apply to every country in the world, as you've got listed down there. Oh yeah, the final thing is we haven't got rid of these div naught, so just select everything, Control H to replace all of those with nothing. So 354 missing values there. And you can save that. So I've saved it, so I'm going to close that, try and import it into SPSS. So file and import. Interesting. I'm sorry, it's gone off the screen completely. I'm just doing file import. Still, I've never seen that happen before. And I'm waiting for it to come up with the next part. So file, this was file and then import and then Excel. And in a minute, the next part should appear for us to fill in. I have to press the pause button. There we go. And the one I saved was the time cross-sectional working one a few moments ago. That's good. Yeah, so country PC, yes, seems to be recognising it. Just a few issues with the decimal places we can sort out in a minute. Okay. There's the data in Excel, so we don't need that. What's it in? SPSS, here it is. I don't want that. Okay, so obviously a few problems with this. At least it's got a huge area for that. GDP to zillion decimal places. So I'm going to go to here. I'm just going to change these. I'll just pause the video while I change these to sensible values. So hopefully this looks more sensible. I'm not putting labels in because I want you to see this time what happens on the output if you don't put labels in, just for interest. So here's the data. It looks sensible. This is a nominal variable just in text. Because each one of these countries only appears once, there's no point doing the coding thing, so we can leave it as text. But here, these are all nicely written, formatted, right number of decimal places. That looks good. So ready to do some analysis. Okay, so I'll go on to that in the next video, but thank you for watching.